Morning, everybody. Our scripture this morning is Exodus 20:8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thanks, Clayton Brown. What we've been doing as a church, really for the past few months, is we have been taking one Sunday at a time and then talking about various Christian spiritual practices. Things like prayer or hospitality or generosity or confession, all these different things. And we've been seeing that what Christian spiritual practices are these are God-given, these aren't man-made, but these are God-given practices that are intended to lead us into more fully experiencing and expressing God's love. And so what we're going to look at this morning is this practice of Sabbath, the Christian practice of the Sabbath. And to set this up, you may be familiar with this children's book. We didn't read it when our kids were younger, but some of y'all might be familiar with it. It's called Little P, P-E-A. It's about a little English pea, and it's this cute, adorable book about this little pea and his friends, and you find out early on in the book what this guy loves to do is he likes to roll down hills. He likes to hang out with his little pea pals and do his little thing, and you find out pretty early on what he does not like. He does not like to eat candy. You know, every night he has to sit down for dinner with his family, and he has to, force his way through the candy so that he can get to dessert, which is spinach, which is cute and also a little confusing because it's hard to know if this is cannibalism, if he's a vegetable, and there's another. It's hard to know what this book is promoting, but it's kind of obvious at least what it's up to. And you could imagine if you're sitting down with a young kid and you're reading this book, how it would be crazy to think about, here's this cute little guy out there that has to be told to eat his candy because, of course, as children, you just want candy constantly. That's the only thing they're thinking about is, how do I get more candy? But here's a book, flabbergasted. Who in the world would have to be commanded to enjoy something so good? I bring that up because we are looking at the practice of the Sabbath, and it's, Exodus chapter 20, this is the 10 Commandments. This is what the commandment of keeping the Sabbath is one of the 10 Commandments. It made the top 10 list, so it's a big deal. And the word Sabbath is the Hebrew word Shabbat, which basically, that word just means to cease, to stop, to rest. It means to take a break, to quote Eliza Hamilton. And so, okay, you think about this. Why in the world would God have to command people to rest? It sounds like it's as ludicrous as God as commanding a child to eat candy. Why in the world? Who in the world would have to be told you are commanded to enjoy something so good? Who in the world would fit that description? Well, apparently you and I would. And so I think it's important that we talk about it because the Sabbath is such good news. And regardless of where you are spiritually, if you consider yourself a Christian, you don't consider yourself a Christian, you don't know where you are, you're trying to figure it out, my guess is if you're anything like me, how you find yourself this morning is you're tired, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're distracted, you're stretched too thin, you're constantly condemned by your to-do list. because it's so undone and it keeps piling up. And if that's where you are this morning, if you're like me, then I think it's worth our time to take seriously this idea, this commandment, this practice of the Sabbath. What does it mean to rest? What does it mean to stop? So let's look at it really under three headings. Let's look at the gift of the Sabbath, the need for the Sabbath, and then the practice of the Sabbath. Make sense? Gift, the need, the practice. Let's look at the gift. How is the Sabbath a gift? Well, if you look back at that Exodus passage, Exodus chapter 20, let me just read it. Verse 8, here's the idea. It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, on and on and on. So God's telling his people, here's what I want you to do. 1 week, work for 6 days, and then one day, seventh day, don't work. Cease from your labors. Take a day off. Now, if you think about the context in which the original people who heard these words, who would that have been? This would have been the people of Israel. They had been in bondage and in slavery to the Egyptians for 400 years, which means all day long, every day, they woke up and had to work. There was no option. There was no vacation days. There was no maternity leave. There was no sick leave. There was no snow days. There was no long weekends. It was all day, every day, grinding labor work. It's slavery, bondage. And God, by his power, by his grace, he rescues them out of slavery, pulls them out of bondage, pulls them out of oppression, brings them into the promised land, and on the way, he tells them, okay, let me give you the 10 Commandments so you can structure your new society, your new way to live around this. And one of them, he says, I want you to work for 6 days and then take 1 day off a week. Can you imagine how sweet that would have sounded to their ears? For them to hear, okay, wait. You're telling me I get a full day to not have to work. I can rest. And you want me to do this, not just this is optional, but it's commanded. And this is not just a once in a lifetime, once every month. This is an every week vacation you're giving us. Total gift. Unbelievable. I don't know if you've seen the TV show The Office, but if you've seen it, you might be familiar with one of the episodes. There's a character on the show named Kelly. And it's her birthday in this particular episode. And the two people that are in charge of the party planning committee are Dwight and Jim. And they're buffoons, and they totally screw up her birthday and her birthday party. So if you're familiar, what they do is Dwight buys her brown and gray balloons, inflates them with his mouth up, barely, it's like a stress ball size. It's like this big. He tapes them to the wall so they're just sadly hanging from the wall. You've seen the memes or the GIFs, and there's a big banner that says, "It is your birthday," period. Not even an exclamation point, because he says it's a fact. It's a declaration. It's a statement. She doesn't deserve an exclamation point, is what Dwight says. They buy her a cake. It's blank. So they decorate it themselves, and they put her name on it, and they misspell her name, and it's pitiful and it's sad. And she's furious at them. They've screwed up her birthday. So to make it up to her, they say, okay, we're going to give you a choice. You can have an hour of TV in the middle of the day, or you can take an hour-long nap. What do you choose? She's so excited she chooses the nap because they have a pillow and a blanket. They set her up underneath the conference room table. They get everybody out of the room. Everybody be quiet. Turn off the lights. They protect her from the outside world, and she kind of curls up, and the camera zooms in on her face, and she says, "I'm too excited to sleep." Just this, it is too good of a gift that you would give this to me. Can you imagine what would happen if someone just kind of barged into your life and put out their arms and blocked all the things that are coming at you that are trying to drain your energy, all the work and the emails and the texts and the dings and the needs and the demands and the cooking and the laundry and all the stuff. And they just said, no. They are off limits today. It's like a giant do not disturb sign over your life. That's what the Sabbath is. That's God coming into your life and saying, no. They are unavailable right now. Their job is to rest today. It would be too exciting to sleep. This is why in this passage it is described, the way that the Sabbath is the word that's applied to it is the word holy. You see that twice you see it in verse 8 and in verse 11. Now, the word holy is this religious-y word. It's a spiritual-y word. It sounds like, hey, this is a really religious day, so take this day and be real religious on this day. That is not what that means. The word holy just means to be set apart. It means different. It means distinct. The same idea is most people don't microwave frozen burritos on fine china. Most people don't. Some do. But most people say, okay, fine china, this is set apart for special occasions. You don't just use it for everyday common use. That's what the Bible is saying and what the Sabbath is. It is set apart. It's distinct for a special purpose. What's the purpose? Look at verse 9. It says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. God's saying, I want you to rest, but I want you to rest unto me. Take a day where you cease your work, where you stop so that you have space to actually engage with me, to connect the dots of your life back to me. So the idea is not merely to be like Snoop Dogg and Andy Samberg and those Corona commercials where they're just kind of kicked back on the beach. It is that, but it is to do that to the Lord. To rest, but to rest in his love, to rest in his providence, in his care for you, in his grace for you. That's what the Sabbath is. 1 day, 24-hour vacation unto the Lord per week. It's a gift, pure gift. Now, the Lord does not give commandments as pointless busy work. There's a reason behind it. Why do we need this? Why do we need the Sabbath? Let's look at that under this second heading, the need for the Sabbath. And there's so many reasons that I could lay out, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to give you two. Two reasons why we need the Sabbath. Reason one, we are limited. We're limited. You remember the scene in the movie Elf where Buddy the Elf meets up with his biological father and he has dinner over at their house in their apartment, and then he ends up staying the night on their pull-out couch. And then when everybody wakes up in the morning, Buddy is awake and he's chipper and he's excited and he's fixed everybody breakfast, which was spaghetti. And he has made a toy rocking horse thing in the middle of the night that he used from some of the cabinets in the other room. And he tells everybody that he got an amazing 45 minutes of sleep. Now that image, silly, of course, it's ridiculous, but that's what the culture is telling you of how your life should look. You should be positive and chipper and productive and do it on as little amount of sleep as possible. In fact, what we are celebrating and encouraging is to not be limited in any way. This is why we love the song Defying Gravity in Wicked. You remember when Elphaba announces that she's unlimited? Unlimited. Together we're unlimited. Okay, so she does it. And she's literally bursting past the boundaries of gravity. I am unlimited. I am defying gravity, and you can't bring me down. And we're all cheering and crying because it's amazing. And we say, yes, we want to be unlimited, and she's unlimited, and we celebrate it, and we love it. And what's wild is that even though we live in a current cultural moment that encourages you to be unlimited, it provides you with the tools so that you can try. So we have things like this: bottomless coffee, 5-hour energy drinks, fast food and instant pots. We have remote work, 24 access to our phones and our work. We have click list and grocery store delivery services. We have express lines, self-checkout, antidepressants, ChatGPT, optimized productivity apps, on and on and on. And so we have all these tools, and we have all this pressure, and we have all this incentive to work harder and to work faster and to be more optimized and to be more efficient. And so we're upgrading our appliances and our technology and our productivity and our organizational skills in our life, and we're upgrading, we're working, and we're exhausted. We're burnt out. There is according to data from the National Health Interview Survey, nearly 30% of adults average less than 6 hours of sleep per night, which is significantly less than the recommended 7 or 8. Only 30% of high school students reported getting at least 8 hours of sleep, though developmentally they need around 10. And then there was one national study that gave this stat, which was alarming, but it said this: over 7% of people between the age of 25 and 35 admitted to nodding off while driving. 7%. 11 years ago, 2013, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention said that insufficient sleep is a public health problem. A public health problem where we don't get enough sleep. Not to be Captain Obvious, but allow me to be Captain Obvious. We are limited. We're not unlimited. God designed us in such a way where we are finite. We are limited. We have to eat. We must eat. We must sleep. We do have to stop and use the restroom. We have limits. That's how God designed us. That's how God made us. So when we stop, when we take a day and we say, I'm done, I am going to rest. I am not going to pretend like I'm unlimited. I'm not going to play the game. I'm going to lean into my creatureliness. You know what we're doing? When you stop, you're reaffirming your humanity. It's you saying, there is a God, and I am not him. And that is a good thing. You know what's crazy about God in this passage? I don't know if you noticed this. In verse 11, it says that God rested. God rested. He is truly unlimited. And it says that even he took a day off. You know what God does? He runs the universe. And he took a day off. Now, I know that your to-do list is long, because I know my to-do list is long. And I know you're hearing all this, and there's protest in the back of your mind saying, I can't afford to take a day off. You don't know my situation. There's too much to do. I got to get ahead. This is the only day where I can get ahead. I can't just stop. I get it. I know. I feel the pressure myself. Your to-do list is long. I can promise you what's not on your to-do list, though. Running the universe. God runs the universe, and even he says, I'm going to take a day off. That's why we need the Sabbath. We need it because we are limited. There is a God, and it is not us. Here's the second reason why we need the Sabbath. It's because we are tired. And I don't just mean our bodies. I mean our souls. That there is something underneath all of our frenzied, restless, anxiety-driven work. There's something underneath that is driving us to be productive and to be efficient and to work. And you know what it is? It is this thing inside of us that needs to validate our existence. We need to be impressive. We need to make a name for ourselves. There's this deep, primal need for somebody outside of us to look at us and to say, we're proud of you. And so we work, and we work, and we work. There's a number of us in therapy, number of us in recovery groups. And the language that's often used in these spaces is doing the work, which is, a great phrase. Work is good, but we're working on ourselves. We're working on self-improvement. We're working to make a name for ourselves. We're working to be impressive. We're working to fit in. We're working to be liked. It's like that Rihanna song, just work, 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 work. Gary Goldman is one of my favorite comedians. And he has this stand-up special where in the middle of his act, he starts talking about how he wants to create and develop and write a whole one-person act, which is a little ironic because that's what he's doing as a stand-up comedian. But he says, I want to do a one-man show, and the name of my one-man show is going to be this, Mommy Look. And here's what he says. The title stems from my theory that just about every one-person show could be called Mommy Look. I've said for a long time, you show me a 4-year-old on a diving board screaming, Mommy Look, to an unreceptive audience. In 14 years, I will show you a theater major. Now, that's not to make fun of theater majors because it's all of us. All of us, in one way or another, are living out our version of, Mommy, look. Daddy, look. Have I done enough? Are you impressed yet? Do I have your attention yet? Do you love me yet? Aristotle once said this. He said, when people don't feel loved, they seek to be admired. When people don't feel loved, they seek to be admired. That is an exhausting way to live. Constantly auditioning. Do you like me? Do you notice me? Do you affirm me? Can you validate me? We go to social media, we post our thing, give me the likes. Internet, validate me. We dress, we live our life in a certain way. Do you like me? Is it enough? Mommy, look. Do you see me? Have you noticed me? Can you admire me? Can you affirm me? We work, we want to make a name for ourselves, climb up the ladder. Have I done enough? Have I proven myself? Is this enough? Do you like me? Do you see me? You know what Jesus says? Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Think about that sentence for a second. If Jesus is just another religious teacher who says, here's a bunch of religious stuff to do, believe this, do this, obey these things, and if you do all of this, then maybe God will love you, maybe you'll get to heaven, maybe you'll be saved, maybe he'll answer all your prayers. If that's what Jesus is doing, then that sentence that I just said, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, I'll give you rest, it's a blatant lie. Because you know what's not restful is a religious system that gets put on you that says, if you do this well enough and devoted enough and you're sincere enough and you're genuine enough and you're godly enough and you work really hard, then maybe you'll get a prize at the end of it. That's not rest. That is work, and it is oppressive, and it is a burden. Jesus does not say, come to my teaching. He doesn't say, come to Christianity. He says, come to me, and I will give you rest, which means he is not offering you just another religious burden so that you can save yourself. He is offering to take the burden off of you by saving you himself. The gospel of grace is that Jesus does the work for you that you and I cannot do for ourselves. He lives the life that you and I should have lived, but we can't. He dies the death that you and I should have died, but we couldn't bear the weight of it. And so he does it for us. And he says, come to me. Receive what I have done for you. You know what he said on the cross? It is finished. The work is done. When you rest in what I have done for you, You know what you have then? You have rest. You have soul rest, which means Jesus is our Sabbath. When you come to him and rest in his work, your soul actually gets the thing that it's craving and striving for, which means it can cease the striving. That restless, frenzied, anxious energy, mommy, look, have I done enough? It gets decimated because you know in your heart of hearts that the God of the universe looks at you and says, I am proud of you. I delight in you. I love you, and my love for you is not connected to your productivity. My love for you is not connected to your potential. My love for you is not connected to your moral effort. When you stop, when you actually do the Sabbath, what you're doing is you're rehearsing in your body the gospel of grace. Because what are you doing? You're saying, I am doing nothing. I am not being productive. I am not catching up. I am not getting ahead. I am not making a name for myself. I am napping. I'm contributing nothing to society. I'm doing nothing. And I am loved. That is what every single one of us is craving, for someone to love you because of you, not because of what you produce. Your value is not connected to your productivity. It's disconnected from that. Once you rest in the gospel of grace, your soul, which is weary and heavy laden, can finally exhale. We need the Sabbath because what it does is it connects you to grace. It connects you to the gospel. That's why we need it. Now, we could end here, but let me give you just a few practical ways to try this on. What does the practice of Sabbath look like? And again, I'm just going to give you some suggestions. These are not thus saith the Lord's. These are just Matt Howell's trying to flesh this out. What does this look like in real life? How do you practice this? 4 rapid fire nugget summaries. Here's number 1. Take the day off. Like actually stop work. Don't check emails. Don't make phone calls. If you're a student, you don't study. You don't write your paper. You don't do research. You don't get ahead. Now, I know every single one of you is something's bubbling up. You don't get it, Matt. You don't understand my job. I don't understand your job. I know some of you have to work on Sunday. You have shifts in the hospital that are scheduled for Sunday or for this day. I get it. Some of you are like, I'm a full-time parent. You're telling me I just don't feed my children for a whole day? Is that what you're saying, Matt? Maybe. I don't know. No, you should feed your children. I don't know what this looks like for you. I just know that the practice of Sabbath is don't work. So whatever that looks like for you in your season of life and in your situation, in your particular circumstance, I don't know. But that's number 1. Don't work. Here's number 2. Turn your phone off. I know all of you, something's bubbling up. I don't like that. You don't understand. I got to have my phone. I got to be on call. I've got aging parents. I've got to be available for them. Okay. But I also know that every single one of us, this is our precious, and we are all addicted to it, and we all want to look at it less, and we don't know how to look at it less because we're addicted to it. Here's your chance. 1 day a week. We're done. Turn it off. Maybe for you it's, okay, I'll turn it off for a few hours. Maybe it's half the day. Again, I don't know what it looks like for you, but it's just an idea. Again, it's not in the Bible. Just Matt Howell. Here's number 3. Number 3, be with other people. When you look at what how Jesus spent his time on the Sabbath, you'll see kind of 3 main things. He went to the synagogue, which means he went to church. He worshiped. He healed people, and he spent time with his friends. He spent time with people, which means he attended to God and he attended to others. The Sabbath is not an excuse to just withdraw from society and be by yourself, just you and God. It's not. It's you and God and others. So what does this look like for us? For some of you who trend more towards the introvert side of the spectrum, Maybe it's stick around for 5 extra minutes when we're done with church today instead of bolting to your car the moment we say amen so you can get away from the crowd, which I totally understand why you would. Again, just a suggestion. 5 minutes, grab another cup of coffee, force yourself to hang out in the foyer, talk to somebody new. Some of you just had a stroke at even just the thought of that. Others of you who are more extroverted, maybe it's, okay, I'm going to invite somebody to go to lunch with me. Somebody I just met. You could do this today. You could do this right now, right after we're done. Hey, let's do what he just said. You want to go to lunch afterward? We'll go up the street. You could do that. Maybe for you or your family or your roommate or whatever the situation is, let's commit to once a month we're going to have somebody over at our house for lunch on this day. Again, just a suggestion of how to practice the Sabbath. Be with other people. Here's the last one. Last one, and then I'm done. Make it a feast day. The Sabbath is not intended to be this oppressive, soul-sucking burden of, oh my goodness, I got to do all this stuff. No, it's a gift. So enjoy it and figure out ways to make it special. One of my friends, one of her practices that she does with her family on the Sabbath is that when they sit down for dinner as a family, they eat dessert first. It's her kind of playful way of saying, hey, we are going to remind one another of the sweetness of the Lord and how generous he is to give us this day. There's another pastor that I know of that their family's Sabbath practices, they bake one of those big cookies in like a cast iron skillet, and then they dump a whole carton of vanilla ice cream on top of it and then put it in the center of the dinner table, and they all kind of eat it out of the skillet like zombies on a carcass, just consuming it, which maybe that's not the right image to associate with that, but whatever it is, think of a way to make this day special, to enjoy it. Maybe for you it's, okay, it's not going to be cookies and skillets and dessert first, which, I realize are high-calorie ideas, high-calorie suggestions. Maybe it's go on a walk. Maybe when the weather is cooler, it's like we're gonna set up a fire. We're going to smoke a brisket. We're going to play board games and invite some neighbors over. We're going to open up a good bottle of wine every week. I don't know. Whatever it is for you, it's figuring out a way to make this day special, joyful, to enjoy it. Because here's the reality. The gospel is thrilling good news. It's good. So when you take a day, what you're doing is you're helping your soul to enjoy the bounty of the goodness. Jesus said this, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Let me pray for us. Oh, Father, I pray that you would give us the grace to believe that it's true, that if we come to Jesus, he really would give us rest, not just for our bodies, but also for our souls. The restless, churning anxiety that so many of us feel inside of craving, striving for somebody to just look at us and tell us that they love us. Father, would you help us to rest in the gospel of grace, which so loudly, lavishly, liberally announces to us that you do. And I do pray, Father, that would give our souls rest. Help us to learn how to not just believe this, but to live this, to practice this, to lean into a life that is driven by resting in your love for us. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.